These theories will make you question everything. And remember, this is for entertainment purposes only.
Now, this one is one of my favorites because the CIA actually has it documented on their website, Mars Exploration 1984. I don't know if you guys know this, but the government acknowledges psychic abilities as a real ability. They call them ESP, extrasensory perception, something like that. Not to get too off track, but they use these people to find military bases, nuclear weapons, hostages, etc. But back to the story. The CIA used a psychic for their experiment, and before they started, they gave them an envelope and told them not to open it until they were done. They gave the psychic some coordinates, and pretty much throughout the whole document, they're kind of going back and forth between the subject, the psychic, and the monitor, whoever's asking the questions. And the psychic is basically describing what they're seeing with these coordinates. And I'm not going to have enough time to tell you, so if you want to find out, follow, like the video, to see part 2. Now,
what's crazy is, I was just watching a video. We did a reaction to hypnosis, right? But I'm still thinking to myself, like, the psychic stuff. I went down to New Orleans. I kind of shied away from that stuff. The psychics, the palm readings, different things like that. I've always shied away from that. But now, I guess I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more now. I never would have thought. Never in a million years would have thought. But I guess that's me being brainwashed. I guess they had me thinking that psychics, possible ways psychics could be real. And here you have the CIA allegedly using them for important things. Psychics now, mind you, psychics. You know what I trace it back to? That's where. It was Miss Cleo back in the day on BET. Y'all remember Miss Cleo? That's probably where I was tainted as far as psychics go. It probably stems back all the way to, I know some of y'all like, dang, I ain't heard that name in a long time. I know I pulled that from somewhere in the back of my brain. I don't even know. But yeah, Miss Cleo kind of ruined it for me. You know what I mean? It was so bad with her, even Dave Chappelle, remember he did the skit on her? So that's probably how far I go back to psychics.
Did the CIA travel to Mars in the past using nothing but their minds, psychic ability, and astral projection? Well, according to documents, yes. But first let me back up. In the 80s, the CIA came up with a secret project called Project Stargate. These are documents released to the public. The goal of the project was to see if using nothing but our minds we could transcend consciousness and even go to other dimensions and possibly other planets. It all starts in the Monroe Institute. Named Robert Monroe figured out that he could actually use certain frequencies in each ear, binaural beats, a bunch of different ways to make you transcend your day-to-day reality. So the CIA looked into it and went to the Institute. They took courses and watched and learned. They used a technique called astral projection, which I'll talk about in another video. But through this technique, they actually believed that they were able to visit Mars.
No way. No way. No way. This mind control and this, you know what I mean? Things they have been quote unquote heard to be doing to people's minds or trying to figure out with the mind's capabilities, what can they do with all of that stuff. Like I've heard it, but I'm hearing it more now than ever. Ever. Here it is, a Martian state of mind. Did the CIA really astrally project? In 1984, we asked a psychic spy. Here's how the CIA believed they traveled to Mars using psychic ability. Now, I know a lot of y'all looking at that like, man, that's nonsense. That's nonsense. Why are they doing it then if it's nonsense? Why is it documented if it's nonsense? Why is that coming out all of a sudden if it's nonsense? And granted, it could be. But bro, we need to look this up some more. I'm definitely, the state of mind is definitely something I'm gonna start looking into now.
the leaked document, this guy had access to it, and I guess he was showing it to his friends or something. Is that what it was?
Well, it seems that way. But again, like, that's not the interesting story here. The interesting story isn't like what this guy's deal was or what his motives were. The story is like, oh, the government's lying to you again, and also that they have this information that they claim is so vital that it's so horrible he leaked it, and yet you're so reckless with it because, like, if this information's so vital, you didn't even know it was gone.
Right.
They didn't even know it was gone until the Guardian published it, and then they were like, oh, I guess this guy took all of our documents.
What did the document say?
But right before that, one of the other real interesting thing, a couple days after the leak first was getting reported, the 3 high-level U.S. officials said that, you'll never believe this, Joe, it had all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. There were some interesting revelations from the documents. There are NATO and U.S. military embedded in Ukraine, help assisting them, basically, which is pretty dangerous.
Western Special Forces operating inside Ukraine. One document dated 23 March refers to the presence of a small number of Western Special Forces operating inside Ukraine without specifying their activities or location. The UK has the largest contingent, 50, followed by Latvia, 17, France, 15, and the US, 14, the Netherlands, 1. Western governments typically refrain from commenting on such sensitive matters, but this detail is likely to be seized upon by Moscow, which has in recent months argued that it is not just confronting Ukraine, but NATO as well.
It ain't like we didn't suspect it. You suspected it. I suspected it. This just sort of confirms it, right? I had a tremendous amount of suspicion when they said, oh, we're just sending these things to help assist. No people? Really? Come on. Not nobody? Yeah, I didn't believe that for once, man. I just didn't. Yeah, I believe, and I heard some people talking about it, at one point in time, and they were making some great valid points about the reason why we can't believe them saying that we're not sending any assistance or no one from NATO is assisting them during this time. And then you started hearing them holding off Russia, doing tremendous, mind-blowing, outstanding things, and you were like, so you sure we didn't send any help? None? Okay, all right.
So those of you who are not in the know, Jamie thinks that she has a stalker from the CIA, of course, someone that hacks into computers everywhere possible.
His name's Carl.
Shutting down all of her feeds.
First of all, he uses my computer all the time. Remember that incident that we had going on where I couldn't look up anything on
Couldn't
Google?
find anything on Google anymore. Sometimes weird things happen too. We hear clicks sometimes on interviews.
Or you know what? Something that happens too is we investigate a subject and we do a deep dive on it, and then like a week later, it's like hardcore in the news media.
Everywhere.
I'm like,
sometimes before we even upload it, and
Yeah.
it's like it's something that we had to try really hard to find.
yeah, and so it's interesting the kind of little synchronicities that we fall and kind of look into. And Brie always says there's no such thing as coincidences.
True. So those of you who are not in the know,
They better keep making these videos public and exposed because that don't sound too good or safe to me. You know what I mean? I know they just treating it like it's nothing and, brushing it off. But no, fam, I would take that very, very seriously, especially if you're talking about, a person that's in the CIA doing that to you. Yeah, I wouldn't trust that at all. You know what I mean? Alert somebody. But at the same time, who can you trust? Who can you trust? Man, they probably got all of their information and whereabouts and yeah. That phone that they recording from is probably probably tapped. Don't y'all think so? It's probably tapped. If they make a call, it'll probably echo.
Mars Exploration Part 2. So the psychic basically described that he saw these tall, thin people with ripped clothes, and they were ancient people and dying, or there was past their time, and they were taking shelter inside of a pyramid and using it, I guess, for hibernation from a storm that was pretty much killing their planet. The psychic goes on to say that these ancient people were looking for ways to survive, but they just couldn't, and they were waiting for a group of others just like them to come back and save them. The group that left was searching for a new place to live, and the psychic basically expands on why the environment was failing and how they left and whatnot. After all the questions, the psychic got to open the envelope from the beginning. Basically, this is the destination of the coordinates. It's planet Mars, 1 million years BC. And if you didn't know, NASA has been trying to get people on Mars for years now. Mars Exploration Part 2. So the psychic basically...
That would be some of the questions I would ask the psychic if I ever was to. I don't think I ever will. I'm just not the psychic guy. But if I was to ever sit down with one, I would definitely ask some questions about that. You know what I mean? Have we been to Mars? Was there once a civilization on Mars? Are they still there? You know what I mean? What is our government CIA doing on Mars? What is, you know what I mean? All kinds of questions like that. What about NASA? What about climate control? You know what I mean? What conspiracy theories that we have right now currently circulating throughout the world? Which ones of them should I pay attention to? Which ones are real, hold the most weight? What about aliens? Like, if I ever decide to sit down, I'm vomiting out a ton of questions for a psychic, bro. You know what I mean? I wish they listed the psychics or some kind of way classified documents came out. Now it's declassified of a list of psychics that were used. Oh, ho, ho. I would love to interview and sit down and talk to one of them.
In the past century, there's been multiple remote viewing projects conducted by the US government to see what is really on Mars. And if you're new and you have no idea what remote viewing is, it's basically astral traveling while you're awake and seeing things that are happening in places that your body is physically not. And the US government has been conducting many experiments such as those, and also time travel experiments, and also a bunch of other experiments that we'll get into later. You guys can look up Operation Stargate to see more information about remote viewing projects that have been conducted to see what is going on in Mars. And this is how we know that Mars at one point looked like Pompeii, and it looked like a huge volcano erupted that basically wiped out all civilization that was once living peacefully on Mars.
I've always said that about Mars. It just gives you that red, you know what I mean? The red hue or color or whatever you want to say. It always looked like it had a ton of volcanic eruptions, and that could have wiped out whatever trees, wildlife, animals, water, vegetation, whatever, people. It could have wiped all that out. You know what I mean? If Mars looks like where the Earth is headed, then that could have possibly been what happened.
So you guys may be asking at this point, why did the CIA use psychics in order to spy on what's going on in other places other than here in the US? And this is an age-old practice. This has been going on for decades, centuries, millennia. You will see that every civilization, especially now in 2023, has some type of spying program out there. Queen Elizabeth did, President Nixon did. Psychic spying and psychic warfare have been practiced all over the world. I feel like we mostly see this in the USSR. They're kind of the godfather of psychic warfare and psychic spying. Government programs will find very skilled and talented oracles to teach others how to remote view and do experiments with them. They don't have to be psychic going in, but with the training from an oracle, they'll be able to remote view and conduct other experiments using psychic vision that these people once did not have. There's a lot of value in having one psychic train multiple people. In the findings of Operation Stargate, the psychic spy who they hired, who actually wrote a book on his whole experience, talks about seeing shadowy people and also talks about having one of the Martians telepathically communicate with him about why they all look so ancient and what they are waiting for and what exactly they're doing there. So this is where it gets interesting. Remember when I mentioned the 13 families from Mars came to our world, our Earth, and how there's DNA of theirs that links back to Mars? Were these 13 families Martians that had promised to come back to Mars and save their people and never returned?
I don't know, man. Like, I wonder what their process is. Like, you hear about different agencies to become a CIA agent, you got to go through this extensive process to become this, that, and the third. You got to be this. Like, I wonder how do they vet and get a psychic or choose the right psychic? How can you vet somebody like that and make sure or know whether or not that what they're saying is legit? That's where I'm stuck at. I'm still stuck on psychics being a legit thing. So I'm like, how do they vet? That's mind blowing to me. Say a psychic spying on Mars. I know that seems so far fetched, but I'm well past the days of that scaring me or deterring me and stuff like that away from it. No, it's not. It's not. We done seen way more stranger things than that, fam. Just go back through the videos we watched recently. We've seen a lot more strange things than that. So, I want to know. I need that to come out. Where's the Bob Lazars for this area of the CIA and different things going on? Where's he at to talk about psychics? I want to hear that interview.
Did y'all know that in 1984, the U.S. government sent somebody to Mars? Or more specifically, a remote viewer to Mars? So I think most people know, maybe some people don't, that the United States government has been weaponizing psychic ability for decades now. And they had a primary interest, obviously, for remote viewing. The ability to obtain information about places and people you're nowhere near. A huge advantage, for the Central Intelligence Agency. There is a document on the CIA website called Mars Exploration, dated May 22nd, 1984. It was released in...
Bro, y'all be living on this CIA website, and I'm so terrified to go on it. I keep seeing so many people bring it up that they're on it, and I'll be like, you know what? I'm fighting the urge, trust me.
The year 2000. And in this document, they take a remote viewer from their remote viewing program that had been going on since the 70s. And they gave him a target of the planet Mars, time of interest approximately 1 million years BC. And y'all, this document is fascinating. The remote viewer talks about seeing a dying planet. And on this dying planet were people. His direct quote is, "I just keep seeing very large people. They appear thin and tall, but they're very large and wearing some kind of strange clothing." He reports seeing roads and pyramids, along with other megaliths. He says there's an obelisk that he describes as looking like the Washington Monument. And while I'm reading this document, I'm thinking to myself, when did we first send those rovers to Mars? And the answer to that is 1996. A little over 10 years after this experiment or study or event. Was that remote viewer the reason they wanted to send them so bad? Because the remote viewer kept describing a dying planet, a dying people, saying that they were all dying out and they were looking for a new place to live. And that raised an even bigger question for me. If they have a sphinx and we have a sphinx, if they have pyramids and we have pyramids, if they have obelisks and we have obelisks, where do y'all think they went to look for a new place to live? Where do you think the government thinks they went to find a new place to live? And is that why we're all so fascinated with Mars? Because we do know now that there's water on Mars. There used to be life there. Are we the descendants of the Martians? Maybe. We could be. I mean, do you have a better explanation? Because I don't. Isn't that crazy cool? I love it.
I'm with her, man. What if we were once there? It was us. We were the ones that were there. We're descendants of the ones that were there. And what they built there was destroyed, and they came here and built it here. What if that's the case? See, we need answers from these remote viewers, man. It's like they hoarding them and keeping them to themselves. Man, or either that or we got to figure out how to acquire the ability to see places with our mind. That's what we got to do. Because obviously they're not going to let us speak to them and figure this thing out because they could have the answers to the questions that we have. What if you spoke to a remote viewer and they told you, listen, you're descendants from Mars. People from Mars, you're descendants of them. They were once there. That's why it looks like it does. They had to find somewhere else to live, kind of like we're doing right now, possibly.
All right, let me tell you something. This right here is a picture of Mars, right? This right here is a picture of Nevada. They look very similar, don't they? Almost as if they're the same place. Reality of the situation is, we have never been to Nevada. We have never been there. It's all pictures of Mars. All those plants, that's just photo edited. There's no plants there. There's no casinos. There's no people. There's no anything. It's all pictures of Mars, people. I mean, do you really think we could ever make it to Nevada? No. It's a government plot. Wake up, America. All right, let me tell you.
Now, I'm not going to go to as far as to say there's no Nevada. Somebody's going to pop up in the comment section and be like, bruh, I live in Nevada. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? But I thought if he would have just stuck with what he was saying in the beginning, how those pictures of Nevada resemble Mars, which it actually does. I see the similarities. Then I was with him up until he dropped me off a cliff when he started saying that there is no Nevada. You know what I mean? Nah, I think I do know someone in Nevada, so they would probably have a problem with him saying there's no Nevada.
And the number of people who think so is growing. Thousands, if not millions of people believe the world is flat.
And it's the subject of tonight's special report. WCIA 3's Aaron Eads is here with us now. And Aaron, as far as conspiracy theories go, flat Earth theory is actually getting pretty popular.
Yeah, believe it or not, the number of people who believe the Earth is flat is actually growing. Scientists might have an idea of why that is, and it's worth talking about. And what better place to do so than one of the flattest places in the country, right here in central Illinois. But there are ideas that this is a sham. NASA, a fraudulent organization bent on siphoning your tax dollars. The moon landing didn't happen.
Those iconic blue marble images seen from space, fakes.
You start seeing words like composite or animation or something that tells you this is not an actual photograph of the Earth.
The biggest concern with the flat Earth movement is how fast it's gaining steam. Scientists are worried that flat Earth could become a political issue like climate change, vaccination, or evolution.
It could become a political issue? Really? I didn't see it, but I can't deny that it is gaining steam. You know what I mean? Tonight's session was supposed to be all about Mars, and they still find a way to slide a video in here about flat Earth theory. So it is gaining steam, man. A lot of people are starting to move over to that side. I'll be honest with you. A lot of people are moving towards the flat Earth theory. What does that mean? I have no clue. Where are they going with this? I have no clue. How could this be a political issue? I have no clue. But you can be for sure that I'm going to be monitoring all of this. All of this, bro. I don't know if they're using this as a distraction to do something else in the background, but you have to ask yourself, why is this becoming a thing? Interesting. Listen, y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what you thought of this video. And stick around and stay tuned. Till the next one, I'm gone.